Welcome to my channel. This is the scariest place in the world. In our first story, someone finds a hidden door in the scariest place in the world. The old house had stood empty for more than a decade, its paint peeling like sunburned skin. But despite its terrifying appearance, someone had made an offer. A real estate agent named Josh saw the listing and felt excitement mixed with dread. He wanted that house, but why had it been abandoned? What secrets did it hold? And would those secrets drive him insane? His friends thought he was joking when he told them about the creepy house, so they encouraged him to buy it and make a video. That way, if anything scary happened, they could laugh at him. Plus, they'd get some views. The house was cheap, but that also meant it needed a lot of work, and there were things you couldn't put a price on, like the fact that no one lived within a half-mile radius of the house. Josh wondered if the locals had banished the home or cursed it. On the day he moved in, he started hearing whispers from the basement. They were faint and cold, like fingernails dragging down a chalkboard. At first, they sounded like a language he didn't understand, but then he realized they were speaking English, and what they were saying chilled him to the bone. They kept calling his name over and over again. "Josh, come down here, Josh." He tried to ignore the whispers, but they grew louder and more urgent each night. Then one night, he heard something else. It sounded like a child giggling, and it seemed to be coming from the basement. Startled, he ran from the room. He couldn't sleep that night, so he decided to investigate. He got a flashlight and slowly walked toward the basement door. As he reached for the doorknob, the whispering started up again. "Josh, come down." But when he turned on the light and opened the door, everything was silent. He shone the light around the room, trying to find the source of the noise, but there was nothing there. There was just a washing machine and dryer in the corner, some boxers filled with old clothes, and cobwebs hanging from the ceiling. There was a window at the far end of the room, but it was boarded up, and Josh knew the sound hadn't come from outside. Was he going crazy? He thought about leaving, but curiosity got the better of him. He shone the light on the washing machine and drying. He pushed the dryer away from the wall and it still didn't make a sound. But when he moved the washing machine, he found something strange. There was a set of stairs hidden behind it, and they led down into darkness. As he stared at the stairs, the whispering started again, and this time it was right beside him. It sounded like the voice was coming from the basement. Josh took a deep breath and began descending the creaking stairs. The air grew colder as he went down, and the sound of the wind replaced the whispering. But when he reached the bottom of the stairs, he heard a giggle in his ear. The sound was so close he jumped back in fright, and that's when he noticed the light switch on the wall. He flicked it on and gasped. There was a long hallway in front of him, stretching into the darkness like an outstretched hand. The only other feature was another door at the far end, and it was nailed shut. Suddenly, he heard a crash from behind him, and he spun around to see the basement door slam shut. He raced toward the other door, pounding on it, but it wouldn't open. Something was blocking it from the other side. He screamed for help, but no one could hear him. The sound of the wind and the whispering grew louder until it was deafening. Suddenly, the door swung open, and Josh stumbled through it, desperate to escape. But he soon realized that was a mistake, because as soon as he stepped through the doorway, he felt a cold breeze on his neck. When he turned around, he saw a swirling vortex of darkness where the door had been. It was like looking into a bottomless pit. The whispering now sounded like 1,000 voices all screaming at once, and Josh realized that they weren't coming from inside the house. They were coming from inside of him. He fell to his knees and begged for mercy, but no one answered. The voices continued to rise until his ears were bleeding. Then everything went black. In our next story, a person gets trapped in the basement. Jennifer loved her new apartment. Sure, it was a little creepy. For example, she often heard footsteps in the attic above her head, even though she lived alone. But Jennifer wasn't scared. She chalked it up to old pipes or a loose floorboard. Plus, the apartment was big and beautiful. It had high ceilings, ornate moldings, and enormous windows that let in lots of sunlight. But there was one room that was off limits: the basement. Jennifer didn't have a key, and whenever she asked her landlord about it, he quickly changed the subject. One night, Jennifer was awoken by the sound of someone or something dragging metal moans in the basement. She sat up in bed and listened intently, but she couldn't make out what it was. She rubbed her eyes and tried to go back to sleep, But the noises downstairs continued. Curiosity got the better of her, and she went to the basement door. As she reached for the doorknob, she heard the sound of heavy footsteps climbing the basement stairs. Suddenly, the door burst open, and she was met with a sight that made her blood run cold. There was a humanoid figure standing in front of her, its body made of twisted metal and wires. Its eyes glowed red, and it opened its mouth to reveal rows of sharp, jagged teeth. Jennifer screamed and slammed the door shut. She leaned against the door, trying to catch her breath, when she heard a voice that sounded like nails on a chalkboard. "Let me in, Jennifer. Let me in and I won't hurt you." The voice was raspy and distorted, and Jennifer could feel the vibrations in her bones. She knew if she opened the door, whatever was out there would kill her. So she ran down the hall to her bedroom and locked herself in. But that was a mistake. Because while she was running, she'd dropped her phone and it had fallen right outside the basement door. Now she couldn't get out without it. Panic started to set in. She had to get out of there. She kicked the door until her foot was bleeding, but it wouldn't budge. Just then, the scratching started again, and this time it was right on the other side of the door. "Let me in, Jennifer. I want to play with you." Jennifer screamed and curled up in the corner. The door rattled violently, and she could feel the wood splintering under the force of the creature's blows. Then suddenly, the door burst open, and Jennifer closed her eyes tight, waiting for the worst. But the creature didn't attack. Instead, it said something that made Jennifer's heart skip a beat. "Where's the phone?" Jennifer hesitated for a moment, but then she threw the phone to the creature. It scooped it up and examined it curiously. Then it did something that made Jennifer's jaw drop. The creature dialed 911 and handed the phone to Jennifer. "You have to call for help," it said. And before Jennifer could protest, it vanished into thin air. Jennifer looked around frantically, but she couldn't see or hear anything. Then she noticed the phone in her hands, and she dialed 911. But when she told the operator about the monster in her basement, she hung up on her. Jennifer tried to call again, but this time, her phone went straight to voicemail. She looked out the window and saw that the streets had been deserted. No cars were driving by, and there weren't any people on the sidewalks. Jennifer realized that the creature had somehow blocked all communication with the outside world. She was trapped, and no one was coming to save her. Now watch Scariest Places in America, or click this other video instead.